On the frontier, the Chuck Wagon was a place for food and conversation on the trail. Cookie just finished breakfast here at the Agile Chuck Wagon podcast. Grab a cup of coffee and stay for a short talk on an Agile and Lean software delivery topic. Here's your host, Chuck Durfee. This podcast is part of a series of podcasts on Scrum values. Today we're going to talk about focus, and focus is really core to Scrum because it's the key to making the time-boxed management work. So in Scrum you have iterations that are of a set length. A lot of people like 2 weeks. And before you go into one of those 2-week periods, why you do something called sprint planning. And during sprint planning you take a look at the body of work that your team could undertake, and the team decides what body of work it is going to undertake and does that in the form of a commitment. In order to be able to meet that commitment, it is important that Scrum teams do not vary from the body of work that they'd planned to do. Now, I know that that's the ideal, and things do come up and Scrum teams struggle with that, and there are a few techniques for that. One, of course, is to take a story and call it distractions and just log time against that distraction story, with the goal being iteration over iteration to try to reduce the size of the distraction story. Another option that teams use if there's, say, a public holiday or a large employee meeting or something along that line is simply just to reduce their capacity by that many hours to show that they're not going to be able to get done as much work as they normally would be able to get done. Both of those are ways of visualizing work that is outside the focus of the team, and they're both geared toward trying to reduce that number. So both of those are good focus management techniques. So next, the question becomes, how do you become more productive? I'm not going to go into individual productivity methods in this particular podcast, although I have a penchant for them myself. What can teams do in order to stay focused? One thing that you can do during your Scrum stand-up would be simply to listen to what people said that they did the day before, what they planned to do that day, and just keep a mental note of where people are in the sprint. And if you hear somebody say something that indicates that they were focused on something besides what they said they were going to do, you should ask them about it. Of course, emergent work does happen, and that's perfectly fine, but just simply asking the question and reinforcing that culture that we work on the highest priority items first, as a rule, will help the team focus. Of course, there are working techniques that can help with focus too. Paired programming immediately comes to mind. I typically use paired programming in situations where I'm working on a gnarly problem and I would like to collaborate with another developer. Sometimes if I'm interested in learning a new technique, I'll collaborate with another developer using paired programming. Or if I'm mentoring a more junior programmer or even a QA person who's interested in programming, we'll use that technique. I've also seen, it's not programming of course, but I've seen pairing work very well on test case creation for requirements refinement and other activities that Scrum team members do. That's all we're going to say about focus today. Thanks for listening. We're packing up the Chuck Wagon for another day in the field. Thanks for listening. Agile Chuck Wagon is a production of DurfWeb. Chuck Durfee is an Agile coach and software developer from Denver, Colorado, USA. Direct questions or comments to Chuck at his email, chuck@agilechuckwagon.com. The background music is called Waiting for the Rain, uploaded by user Sky Coyote to the community audio section of the Internet Archive under a Creative Commons Attribution and Share Alike license. Hope to see you again soon. Happy trails.